Today, we are beginning one of the series that will focus on educational issues. We focus on equity. How can we provide equal education to all children, regardless of their locations in the trajectory of learning? We will not only do that, we provide teachers new techniques to meet the needs of their varied students. We will give parents pointers on how to approach school. Sometimes schools tend to look at those who some people characterize as helicopter mom, those who often go to school, in some cases harassing teachers. No, we're not going to emulate their footsteps. However, we're going to give parents and those who care about education of their children the tools they need to ensure that they work collaboratively with schools in order to make their students or their beloved ones successful. So it's my pleasure as the president of Systemic Diversity to bring this woman who has enormously succeeded in many ways in her teaching, in accreditation, and all the things that I'm not able to mention here. But as we follow her, you'll be able to know and find out for yourself. So I encourage everyone to follow this phenomenal woman. I don't usually endorse people, but this is a unique person. I therefore encourage you to ask her questions. She will be consulting, and she'll be consulting sometimes on free basis, advise you on how you carry out your responsibilities. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, she will show you various pedagogical tools to meet the diverse student population. She will also underscore the importance of curriculum that lend itself to things that will empower students. I know that some people don't want us to teach history, but for God's sake, you have to teach history. You have to get people connected to history. Don't lie to them. Education is about pursuit of the truth. And that's what could save us. And that's what we can use. And that will propel us to a high contour of learning. Dr. Namita, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you.
I'm wondering whether you have any comment before I go to some of these questions as our first session in this series.
This is what I personally feel, that discussing biases at different levels, be it education, be it your behavior, be it your belief formation, be it transformation, every field has that beliefs formation cycle. So it is pertinent to mention the way the beliefs are formed in the classroom, because I'm an educationist and I personally believe that these beliefs are automatically built in the class. So this is what I want to curate as far as my answers are concerned. Whatever questions you will ask me, and will make a difference. So let's start with the questions straight away.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are coming in with the fluidity of your knowledge base. And in this section, the questions will be based on three parts. First one is the core question. And this is focusing on primary inquiry. We've learned so much in research. Let me put it away. The question is, how do routine curriculum and pedagogical practices quietly advantage some students over others?
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. I'm teaching in University of Delhi for almost 35 years, and we'll be talking about on the basis of my experiences in the class. So if you talk about the perspective in the classroom in India, the what I feel is that inequalities, what you face in education, does not announce itself. This is the primary thing what I want to tell you. It does not raise any slogans that, okay, this is inequality, this is inequality. It does not arrive with a very visible quality. It enters the classroom very, very softly. And how does it come? Through the tone, through the pause, through the pace, through the silence, and the expectations by a teacher in the classroom. So after this experience in my college, which is a government college, with overcrowded benches, to the elite private universities with the smart boardrooms, smart classrooms, air conditioned halls, from metropolitan institutions to the semi urban campuses, I can say this with a strong conviction that educational inequality in India is not loud. It is polite, it is respectable, and therefore it is rarely questioned. And it hides, comfortably behind the words we trust: discipline, merit, tradition, standards. And because it looks orderly, we assume it is fair. This is the sad state of affairs. And it reveals itself in a very small, everyday moments. This is what I want to reiterate here. When English fluency is mistaken for intelligence, students who speak confidently, they often, in borrowed academic language, are perceived as sharp, even when their understanding is very shallow. So, this is one educational bias which every educationist feel, which every teacher feels in the classroom very, very naturally. The person who is loud, answering in the classes, we often feel that, you know, this person is very confident. So slowly we start building a biases in the favor of him, that he's very good. And when the confidence is mistaken for the competence, it's not that the person is confident, so he's competent also. So this is one of the biggest biases what we face in the classes. The student who speak quickly, assertively, they are rewarded, while reflective thinkers who pause, translate internally, or choose the words very carefully, they are overlooked. So in a way, we are shadowing the people who are having those reflective thinking, but they are not quick in answering. This is one of the biases which I want to highlight. Another, when obedience is mistaken for learning, the students who comply silence are seen as very good, while curiosity, questioning, uncertainty is discouraged, especially among those who always perceived as weak. So we always ask them, please, please be disciplined, please be silent. So the people who are maintaining that discipline, we consider them as good, whereas it can be the other way around. And I've also seen this repeatedly in the classroom. So these minor and small actions, what are there in the classroom, they build the biases. And even I have seen the students from the English medium urban backgrounds. They speak fluently, even incorrectly, and receive appreciation for the clarity of the thoughts and, of course, their articulation. So, also seen the students from Hindi medium or the regional language background answers accurately but hesitantly. So, mentally translating your complex ideas from the first language into the English and to be told. So, your concepts are fine, but you need to improve the communication. This is what the teachers, they say to the students in the classroom. And the irony is very, very painful. The answer was correct, the understanding was sound, only the delivery was unfamiliar. So this is what we say, that the classroom communicates often unintentionally. Understanding is negotiable, expression is not. So speaking matters more than thinking. And sounding right matters more than being right. Confidence is rewarded and caution is penalized. These are very key points which I'm trying to tell you from my experience and culminating everything what I have experienced in the classroom. So this is not a flaw of the individual teachers. It is a very systemic habit which is deeply embedded in how Indian education system has historically equated the language, polish, and conformity with the merit. So as a result, the classroom does not merely transmit the knowledge, it transmits the signal of belonging. Some students receive a message, this space is for you, and others receive a quieter message, you may enter, but do not take too much of space. So over the years, this quiet preference shapes the confidence levels, academic identity, career aspirations, and willingness to take intellectual risk. So it is gently rehearsed every day in the classroom until it feels natural. So that this is how I feel that everyday curriculum and pedagogy without malice and without intent quietly advantage some students while systemically disadvantaging the others. On to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for the kind of work you are doing and continue to do. And I can also say that the points you made, all of them can be generalized in every part of the world. I've had experience in 3 continents, and they tend to be similar. May not be the same, but you see some connections, how they relate. For instance, I have students who would write me about their school and how they operate. You come to the school the first day, the teacher would assume who would do better, who would not do well, and they treat them accordingly. So I'm not going to be commenting on those things. I think everybody should go and listen to your message because it was clear. And all I wanted to say is that generalizable regardless of where you are. The point is that you're going to fight inequity regardless of what form it raises its ugly head. Thank you so much. Now that you've looked at that one, can we look into the issue of curriculum and instructional practices and how it influences dominance or lack thereof when questions are asked, and looking at the flexibility versus rigidity, etc., etc. Can you highlight something on that that could give our audience something to take home to help their children, or teachers to help their students, especially those who are teaching in diverse environments?
So, thank you, Dr. Joseph. So, you are asking me to comment on the key dynamics, that is, the micro practices that drive the outcomes. So, it has different parts. So, the first part I would like to mention on is a curriculum and instruction. So, there is a difference between syllabus and curriculum. Syllabus is what is being given to you to complete in the class as far as the conceptual framework is concerned, and curriculum is the way you deliver. You need to enrich the content what is to be taught in the class by storytelling, by case studies, so on and so forth. So that's a curriculum, what we do it in the class, and that's on the liberty of the educator. And especially in India, if you talk about the new education policy, there's a lot of flexibility which is given to us to use any ways and means to explain the student in the experiential way, with a lot of examples and storytelling and case studies, etc. So now my first perspective is, who dominates the classroom and why? There are some students who dominate in the class. In the countless classrooms, there's a familiar pattern which is repeated. Like the students who sit in the front row, they are English speaking students. They are the students who attend the coaching centers, the students who already know how good students behave. So that's their personal thing, that they want to steal the show, they want to impress the teachers. So they answer very, very quickly. They answer very, very fluently. And they use a very right academic phrases in order to impress the teacher. Meanwhile, the equally competent, capable students, often the first generation learners, and the students from the government schools, and the students think in India, in Tamil, in Bengali, in Marathi, in Telugu, and translating mentally into the English, pausing before they speak. So by the time they are already, the discussion has moved on. So the teacher thinks that they are not prepared, and the student thinks that I should not speak unless I am absolutely sure. So they have some kind of apprehension in their mind that if they are translating their regional language into English, the time is short and the teacher moves on to the next concept, and the teacher have this biases that they do not know the answers. So this is a cognitive translation load what is there, and these are the micro practices which we see in the everyday classroom, and it is never acknowledged in our pedagogy that we should give time to the students to translate and give a pause, and give even the students, the students who speak at a low pace and with a very reflective thinking. So these things are actually every day rehearsed in the class, and this is an everyday basis what we feel that our role is not the way it should be as a teacher. And the next is I will be talking about the flexibility versus the rigidity. So let me give you a very simple example because you'll be able to relate more with the concept here. So a student from a known family or one who frequently interacts with the teacher requests an extension. Ma'am, I had multiple submissions and I have a family function. The response is understanding. Another students, perhaps, who is not communicating with the teacher on a very regular basis from a distant suburb, managing a part-time job or dealing with the family responsibilities, submits late without asking. The response of the teacher is rules are rules. So these small examples shows that flexibility often comes from familiarity with the teachers. So this is also a big biasness, which is practiced in the everyday class. If the teacher knows someone that, okay, he's very responsible, he submits the assignments very in time, and the person who's actually suffering and dealing with the family responsibilities, maybe because of that reason he's submitting late, so we are not accepting that as a teacher, because for one student familiarity uh, pays him, and on the other side non-familiarity, the student suffers. So the answer of the teacher is rules are rules. So the teachers, they bend the rules for the students, for some students, and the teacher does not bend the rules for some students. So they are the invisible hardened things and very sad state of affairs for certain students. And no syllabus mentioned this lesson, but every student learns it on its own. The third point which you asked me is about the feedback practices. In India, if you talk about, because you will be having my perspective, because I have been in the Indian education for 35 years. So although I have been on the international panels and taking some lectures across the globe, so my experiences are mixed. It has the global perspective also. So high performing students, they hear that you have a good grasp, you are very sharp, you should consider, uh, you know, research or some high civil services jobs. Whereas struggling students in the class, they hear you need to work hard, you lack basics, maybe this subject is not for you. So how bad the student will feel. So what I feel is that as teachers, as educators, we also need to break the biases. We also need to be having some equality in our thoughts, because they are invisible. We are not loudly saying it, but we are practicing it at everyday classroom. So one is encouraged to aspire, whereas the others are encouraged to settle. As I often say in the faculty workshops in India, the feedback does just the assess work, it allocates the ambition. So these things need to be, taken in the whole perspective, and a deep reflection is required by all the students, because all the students are equal. It's just that some people are loud, some people are silent, some people are more intellectual, even if they are not able to communicate quickly in the classroom. Now coming on to the subjectivity in the grading, which is a major part, that is the assessment part. So we have the different assessment systems in the different countries. We give a lot of importance to the in-class activities, for the engaging activities, for participation in the class activities, and the cultural capital. So the participation grading in the classroom favors the students who speak English fluently, with the urban confidence, with the familiarity with the academic decorum, and the students who speak softly, they hesitate in accented English, are often perceived as less engaged. So I often asked a senior faculty group, are we grading participation or a cultural comfort? So, this is something which all the educators have to understand, We're not grading for the participation actually. We are grading them on the cultural comfort. Some students have a comfort in speaking English, whereas some are not. So there was a silence when I was talking to my friends. So uh, because of the participation, what I feel, uh, it often measures how closely a student resembles the teacher's own educational journey. So I hope, Dr. Joseph, you're trying to relate what I'm trying to tell you. There is a background of the faculty member also, from where the faculty is coming, and also a cultural, background of the student which is coming. So I think there is a intermingling of the two cultures together, on the basis of which the grading and the assessment is done, which is again wrong. So that is why the advent of artificial intelligence is coming. And certain things are bad by the advent of AI, and certain things are not good for AI, because AI also has the biases, and the biases are very confidently reflected into the assessment system. So, what I feel is that a training to the faculty members, as far as the cultural capital is concerned, is given to everyone, so that they know that only a fluent English cannot fetch him the good marks. There are other factors also. This is what I personally feel, and with conviction, I'm trying to say it. And then, of course, if we've discussed these four aspects at the micro level, so there's a cumulative effect, how inequality quietly compounds itself. That there's a compounding of the inequality, the four pillars, what we have discussed. No single teacher disadvantages a student, but thousands of small signals say that you belong here. You are tolerated in the class. You should not take up too much of space. Our semester, this creates confident speakers versus the silent achievers. There are risk takers versus the rule followers. There are aspirants versus the self doubters, and all are within the classroom. So this is the cumulative effect, that we are deepening the biases. We are actually working on compounding the biases rather than breaking the biases, right? So that is from my side.
Thank you so much, Professor. I'm so thrilled on how first you pointed out the complexities of these issues and then employed the cultural capital some people may have in order to dissect each and every one of them. So I'm really, really pleased for those comments. And I hope that people could listen to you, get into these nuanced ways of these complicated, complex issues, and understand how you've made it to not be ambiguous, because when people make these things ambiguous, we don't get it. I recall being in classes when I was teaching. I have students from, say, Asia, China, Japan. These students don't talk much in class. And some people assume because they don't talk, they don't know. And some people may have accent, and they use the accent and misunderstand it as if those students cannot write. But when they write, they beat the national speakers. And the cultural capital connection with people, their social, related ones, academy related ones, people whose parents are this and that, all those things, they factor into that equation. So I'm very, very pleased that you are getting all these things breaking down so that common people can understand the dynamics of these things in the classroom. So thank you so much, the good doctor. Now, I want to go to the line of, story aspect, looking at the story angle. Say, for instance, things, some people say, oh, meritocracy, that's how we do something. Some people say it's power proximity, or social class, as you characterize it so well, social capital, how it impacts the educational system. Would you give us some sort of pointers as to some of these things and possible ways we can at least raise the awareness, whether it's parents, teachers, even students being aware of it, in order to push for a better direction, for fairness to all learners?
Yeah, as far as the story angle is concerned, that is whose voices dominate in the class. So when it's a group work, the most fluent speaker dominates. The most assertive student dominates. The one who's comfortable emailing the faculty dominates. It is not necessarily that the people who are doing it, they are the best thinkers. No, the faculty has to understand that certain people are very subtle. They are shy in emailing the faculty. So what they do is they are very they are coming from the diverse backgrounds. They have some different culture. They step back. They have very good ideas, but they are very shy in publicly telling it. So silence becomes a safety for them, yet assessment rewards visibility. So, as I often see, the group work teaches hierarchy faster than collaboration. So, this should not be there. There should be cooperation, no competition. Whereas, if you give them a group work, automatically the hierarchy is built. Okay, he's number one, he's the group leader, and then he's not a group leader, rather than the collaborative work they are trying to do. So, the critical perspective, what I want to tell you here is that because of the classrooms are often where the students learn who gets heard, who gets the authority, and who gets dismissed. In the age of AI, where ranking, profiling, prediction are becoming automated, these biases will not disappear. In fact, they will deepen it because we have to feed the data accordingly that this is the person who engages in the class, and so all these things are going to deepen it. So what we can do is that we have to understand the student's perspective. Each student is different with a diverse background. So if we understand the cultural part of it, or maybe the diversity part of it, these things can be controlled, and these biases can disappear, not by the use of AI, but with the manual, intentional transforming of the biases and breaking of the biases. So and also, if you talk about the deeper lens, there is a medium of instruction, there is a caste and class background, there is a urban versus the rural schooling, there are gendered expectations. So teachers may consciously assume that science is not for her. This is one thing, this is the biggest biases, that if you talk about the gender perspective, the teachers will come, okay, this is for boys and this is not for girls. So he's good with numbers, whereas he's not. They are actually struggling with the analytics. So some students get the tougher questions, more mentoring, more exposure compared to the other students. So all these things, they deepen the biases. So others are getting only the simpler task. Okay, you just do this, you just type it, you're not having a good intellect, so quietly just do it. So there are some there are there then the students are divided in two classes. One is the privileged class, one is the marginalized students. So the privileged students, they grow like mushrooms, whereas the marginalized students, they make mistakes, they confirm, and they somehow, the teachers are only responsible for making them feel that we are less. So this is not done. This is not done. So simply, the students from elite schools, they are encouraged to apply for internships, for research projects, for conferences. Their exposure, their opportunities are, much more than compared to a set of students who are lesser in terms of all these things. So the gap is deepened. It is designed. It is, structural. It is systemic. It is not accidental. So we all have to join our hands together to break the biases, not to design or having a systemic biases, at least in terms of the education system. Give We have to fill those confidence gaps, the aspiration gaps, the opportunity gaps, and prepare the leaders for tomorrow. And all students are equal for all the educators, and we have to understand the education is great equalizer, not a gap builder. So we have to redesign the classrooms very cautiously, and it will, inherit the caste, class, language, confidence, and We are not supposed to deepen the biases. We are going to silently plug them out with some moral claims and with some pedagogical practice. And that's the challenge responsibility of all the educators in India. Thank you so much. So that's all from my side.
Well, I am so pleased to have you on this platform. And all the points you made here, I will argue that they are generalizable. I don't care where one is. I listened to the First Lady, former First Lady, Michelle Obama, when she was interviewed going to her school. She said that somebody discouraged her not to go to that school, I think Cornell or Princeton. Somebody advised her not to apply because she wouldn't be the material. Then she started asking, what are the materials? She was making excellent grades. She was holding all prestigious positions. And how in the world could they say that? In my view, the thing that some people may say the big gorilla in the room wasn't addressed is because that she happened to be a black lady. And she said that. And then being a black lady and a woman for that matter, it's a double whammy. So all of them were impacting the individual who was making that comment. So it's really, really important that we look at all the things you mentioned. In my book about belief formation and belief transformation, unfortunately, a lot of people are trained in a very, confined location. So whatever they learn is limited to that which they learn from that confined location. Even with the technology and AI, it doesn't really do as much as we would like because some people still are ingrained with the belief system that is inconsistent with natural behavior of human beings, where they label some people for whatever reason, usually not a substantial reason, can do, and the others cannot do. It's unfortunate.
At the end, I would like to say that every classroom teaches two lessons. One is written in the syllabus, and the other is written in our responses. The students learn quickly who's heard and whose mistakes are forgiven, and those silence is mistaken for the lack of ability. Biases is rarely loud, but it is always instructional. To break it, the teachers don't need new tools, they need new pauses. And the long wait for after a question, a deeper listen beyond the accent and the confidence, the willingness to value the thinking over performance. And because in the age of AI, whatever we normalize in our classrooms will be scaled by machines. So the future of education will be shaped not by what we intend, but what we choose to notice. Thank you very much for calling me on this platform. And it was a very fruitful discussion. And I wish all the best for SDIG for the, such good endeavors and the programs.
Well, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. But I look forward to having you more because the knowledge you are sharing is imperative that we continue to do this because, as I said, it's generalizable. And now that you are in a global scope where people, whether they are women or men or pigmentation of the skin or whatever it is, your voice will be very powerful. I remember when they said, or when I read somewhere, curriculum is what happened. What happens could be overt or covert, but all of them impede learning or support learning, depending on privilege or lack thereof of the individual learners. So I'm very, very appreciative for this, comment. And if you would have a final statement, since you're communicating with parents, teachers, and all those who care for meaningful education for all, what would it be?
So we actually have to break the biases, change our lenses in terms of all students are equal, understand their diversity, understand their intellect, and we should not be wearing those lens that only the people who, communicate fast with a fluent English are intelligent. Each one has its own intelligence. Each one is different, and we have to celebrate that diversity in the classroom also, breaking all the biases.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time, the
Yeah,
same
sure.
time.